From years of anxiety to warrior and mentor, Bradley Robinson created the Anxiety Project to help you end your anxiety naturally. Let's mold the new you and let's end anxiety together.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Anxiety Project podcast number 36. I am Brad Robinson here with you today. Anxiety recovery is no easy journey. It's very complicated and it is very difficult. The biggest battle you're going to have to face in your life is the battle with your own mind. And when I was going through my anxiety recovery, I experienced a lot of resistance. I was running in the same patterns and habits for years and years and years, even since when I was a kid. And the unconscious mind runs on patterns. It runs on them. So when I was beginning to meditate and think differently and use anxiety coping techniques and shift my diet, I experienced a lot of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when something feels wrong, it doesn't mean that it is wrong. And so it felt wrong. It felt wrong to shift my identity. It felt wrong to get rid of negative friends because I was holding on to my identity. The anxiety was my identity. It was who I was. I was this guy and this shy guy. I had this strong criticizing voice within me that was there for many, many, many years. And I had this view of myself, this belief that, this is how life is going to be, my beliefs of what is really important, which turned out to not be important. So I had all of these limiting beliefs within me. And when I started to shift one thing in my life, I experienced a little resistance. And I was like, eager to go back to my old habits, my old patterns, but I didn't want to go back to that old me. I knew that this process, the learning, the knowledge that I am giving myself of what really anxiety is, I knew that in order for me to live a happier, more confident, more powerful life, I needed to shift who I was completely. I knew that. And so that really kept me motivated. It really kept me motivated. I knew that if I didn't change, my relationship will end. I knew that because I started to open my eyes to the guy I really was. I was thinking about myself constantly, very self-centered. And I was very aggressive often. And I couldn't figure out what was really important. I didn't really have any meaning. I didn't have any order. I didn't have any structure. I was living in such a chaotic state. And so in this podcast, I really want to tackle how to get that order more into an anxious person's life, your life. And adding this order is getting the sword and the shield for when you go into the dragon's lair, which is the chaos. So you need a sword and shield. And as an anxiety sufferer, I used to go about my day without any swords and shields. I would just go out into the day and I didn't know how to handle the chaos that came. For instance, I remember taking a workshop years ago for the camera union that I applied to. And I had to take this workshop for 2 weeks, and the workshop was at a college quite a ways away from me. And when I went to the workshop, I started to have panic attacks. I had a panic attack the first day I was at the workshop. And when I was sitting in the classroom, I remember that, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to have to drop out. I don't know how to handle it. I don't know how to handle the chaos that's going on in my head right now. I have all these beliefs, and all those beliefs were creating this self-image of me, and I was putting aside other issues in my life and pushing them all the way down deep into my body, where my anxiety was just a cue from my body saying, you have to deal with this stuff. And I didn't know what was under the surface. I was just trying to handle it. I didn't have a sword and shield. I didn't know how to handle the chaos. I didn't know what was under the surface. I didn't know how to conduct myself in that classroom. So anxiety recovery is really incorporating and adding order, taking on the responsibility of your anxiety. You know what? I have to change because, and give yourself some damn good reasons to change. Give yourself some good reasons. Maybe your relationship with your family will improve dramatically. Maybe your relationship with your child will increase dramatically. Maybe you'll get to a better place and be more financially stable. Maybe you just want to feel good and in control on a regular basis. You have to push yourself towards pleasure, and you have to attach pain to not changing and pleasure to change. What will it be like a year from now once I've recovered from anxiety? What will my life look like? What will my relationships look like? How will I look a year from now once I've recovered? I'll have great posture, wouldn't I? I'd be telling funny jokes to my coworkers, expressing myself with love and helping other people who are struggling, whatever it may be. Envision that. What will your life look like? If I don't change in a year from now, how will that affect my relationships, my life, my wife, my children? How will not changing impact my work and impact my health, especially health? Anxiety does a great deal over your health, and to attach, being unhealthy with not changing is a great motivation to change. Very, very, very powerful. I want to go over the manifestation movie that really helped me to gain control and gain order throughout the day. And this is the sword and shield. This is one strategy that really impacted me greatly and my anxiety. In the morning, after constructing a morning routine, which doesn't have to be complicated, and it's not complicated. A morning routine is simply giving yourself 20 to half an hour of time to yourself, and envisioning the day. This is a really strong strategy to take on the day and show your unconscious this is what you really want. This is how you want the day to go. So I meditate in the morning. I stretch in the morning. And when I was going through my anxiety recovery, doing power poses in the mirror, doing poses, confident poses in the mirror, showing myself that, I am a powerful person. I am confident. I can do it. I can take on the day. So this manifestation movie is a mental exercise where you sit down like you're meditating, but you go through the day from morning until night of how you want the day to go in vivid detail, the way you want the day to go. How do you want your mornings to go when you drive to work? How do you want to look in the car? How do you want to feel? What do you want to see? And what will your work environment look like when you show up to work? How will your coworkers act, and how will you act towards them? How do you want to respond to them? How do you want to look when you are talking to them? And how do you want the presentation to go at your job or wherever you are? How do you want to be? How do you want to talk? How do you see yourself? And go through the whole day, you interacting with your family, friends, whatever activities you have planned for the day. Imagine how you want the day to go. What this does is it tells the unconscious mind what you really want, because the unconscious mind connects with imagery and emotion. So the more emotion you give this exercise, the more it impacts your unconscious mind. So give it lots of emotion. How do you want to conduct yourself during the day? Are you expecting a panic attack to happen? How do you want to handle it? Envision that. Envision how you want to handle it. And keep this whole exercise in third person, because when you see yourself in third person, you're telling the unconscious mind that this is what you want to manifest. Because if you see yourself associated, that really tells us, the unconscious mind, that you already have it, but we don't want that. We don't want to tell the unconscious mind that you already have it. We want to tell the unconscious mind that this is something that you want to have. So the more you see yourself doing what you want in your mental exercise, the more it impacts your unconscious mind and says, this is what Brad wants. This is what you want. That's what you want, right? You want to go through the day and handle those panic attacks that much better. And envisioning how you want it to go is so important to recovering from anxiety. And I do this all the time, where I have a doctor's appointment and I'm nervous about it. I envision how I want it to go. I did a previous podcast on my fear of needles, and I did this exercise when I knew I was going to go get a needle at the doctor's office. I envisioned how I want the visit to go, how I want to be, how I want to feel after it's done. And that's really important as well. How do you want to look after that event, that you know is going to be anxious for you or fearful for you? Imagine the outcome, how you are going to look once you've done it, once you've proven your old self wrong. Are you going to have amazing posture? Are you going to strike the Superman pose and stick your chest out? And is the image going to be vivid? Is the image going to be vivid and bright? How do you want to see yourself? And once you see yourself accomplishing that fearful task, that strong emotional event, you're telling the unconscious that this is the person that you want to be. And the more you do this exercise every day as you do it, you start to automate it. You start to unconsciously manifest these attributes that you are projecting in that exercise. You are manifesting it. You'll start to realize that, you know what, I can handle this. I can take on that event and that fearful environment. You know what, I can handle that panic attack. And you'll unconsciously go through the events and you'll realize that, you know what? Oh my God, I actually did handle that quite well. And this exercise is so powerful that you'll shift your perspective over things and your fears will shift. I used this exercise when I started working as a camera trainee. I was very nervous. I was starting a new chapter in my life, and I was going through anxiety recovery at the time. So in the mornings, I took time out of my mornings and I sat down in my meditation area and I went over my mental movie. I projected, how I want to look and feel when I was working. And I would picture myself with confidence, with amazing posture. And I was working hard. I was focused. And when I went through the day and how I wanted my day to go, I manifested that during my working days. I would work that much harder, and I found myself to be more focused, and I was bringing positive energy into my body just by doing this exercise. I was bringing about this new me, and by doing this every day, it completely shifted who I was. And I started to shift into this new me, this more powerful, confident, and energetic me. And this exercise proved that, you know what, it's all in the mind. And the more you see yourself as this new, confident person, the more you're going to manifest those emotions and that identity. And you're just going to become that person eventually. And I eventually did. So anxiety recovery is very windy. The road is very windy because our unconscious runs on patterns. And when we implement new patterns, when we shift our old identity, we experience some resistance, but it's important to keep going, because do you really want to stay with this anxiety for another year? Do you want to stay with this anxiety for another 2 years? Attach pain to not changing and pleasure to changing. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Do not let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on next week's episode. Goodbye, everybody. For more podcast episodes, for more video content, and one-on-one coaching with me via Skype, visit www.unpluganxiety.com for everything you need to know about ending anxiety naturally. I love you all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.